Hi, this is Eddy Mann, and you're listening to the Loudini Rock and Roll Circus.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of the Loudini Rock and Roll Circus. LoudiniRockandRollCircus.com is the website, and just go there, pop your name and email in, and never miss an episode. We've got about 2 interviews coming out every week now, and a full-blown music podcast with my lovely and talented co-host, Miss Katie Simone. That is LoudiniRockandRollCircus.com. For all your independent music needs, you definitely want to check that out. I'd like to thank my sponsor, my longtime and long-suffering sponsor, Positively, Pittsburgh Live Magazine, Pittsburgh's first internet radio, TV network, online community magazine, and business directory. It's a great place to listen and watch and download audio and video from that is created by the members of the community. It's a great community of different people with a lot of different businesses, providing amazing content on all kinds of different subjects. It's a very cool place. You might want to even start your own magazine page there, where you can do things like upload your own videos and your own podcast, like this one. That is Positively Pittsburgh Live Magazine, pplmag.com. You want to check it out. Now, I have Eddy Mann with us today. Eddy Mann is a musician, songwriter, worship leader, teacher, speaker, coach, husband. He's like a jack of all trades. Probably is very good at all of them. So I know he's a fantastic musician and songwriter. I'm listening to some of his music. Now, whether you know him as one or more of these people, you know his heart, you know his love for life. His past has been playful and colorful at times, but it's also been a constant in his vision. It's always been a vision of hope, peace, and understanding through the eyes of a loving heart. Eddy, welcome to the Loudini Rock and Roll Circus.
Hi, Lou. Joy to be here.
Great to have you, man. So why don't we get like a little bit, I mean, I could sit here and read your whole bio, but why don't we take a step back here, and why don't you kind of give us the sort of Reader's Digest version about how you got, because this is the Rock and Roll Circus, about how you got involved with music in the first place.
I was one of those kids who was struck in high school with the bug, like most guys, I was doing it to get girls. You get older, you're honest about it. I just wanted to be up in front and play, swing the guitar around and get girls, and I was going to be a great guitar slinger. And it wasn't until I had gotten into college, and I was actually in college for business. And after my second year, I realized that I needed to get out on the road. I needed to be a musician. I needed to live that life to get it out of my system. And I realized at that point that it wasn't, I loved the guitar, I loved the instrument, but what got me out of bed every day was the creative process of writing music and writing songs. And so it all kind of came to a point very quickly. And I spent a good 10, 15 years traveling as a full-time musician. And when I met my wife, I kind of wanted my kids to know what I look like. So I made a conscious effort of trying to find something else in my life that I had a passion for, because you're in college now and you want to go out and play and travel, and you don't anticipate. You're not thinking too far ahead. At least I wasn't. I really wasn't focused on where I was going to be later in life, and I found myself later in life without a passion for anything else. And fortunately for me, I had a friend that was he was going out on the road for a short summer tour, and asked me to take on his students at a little conservatory over in New Jersey. And I did that, and I loved it. And by the end of that summer, I was going back to school kind of part time and to get a teaching degree. I wanted to teach, so I actually spent a small window of time when my children were very small, just teaching full time. I actually put the guitar down for 4 or 5 years, and I just really wanted to be a dad. I was ready. I was really ready to be a dad and enjoy that life. And on the other side of it, as life would have it, the passion was still there, the love was still there, and slowly but surely, I picked it back up and found myself right back in the thick of it again.
Back into the thick of it. When you first started getting into music, what artists inspired you?
Well, when I first picked it up, I was, being a guitar slinger, you're looking at Eric Clapton and Jeff Beck and the forerunners of the guitar, and as it moved on and as I realized what the draw was for me, I had to actually go back. I tried to go back and look at the rock poet, so to speak, to kind of educate myself. It was my own way of educating myself as to rock lyrics and the origins of them, and to try to really dissect the difference between maybe a Bob Dylan approach to a song, not necessarily his approach to it, trying to find out where was it coming from, to maybe Paul Simon, Donald Fagen from Steely Dan. I would go through all these different guys that really wrote from a different point of view, musically and lyrically. Some of them were much more schooled lyrically. You can't get any simpler than Dylan was in the beginning, at least from a musical standpoint. So I kind of schooled myself in composing that way. And I was brought up in a home that had more bebop jazz playing than anything else. My father was a pianist, had a quintet that played, and so I always had music in the house, and I had a fairly wide variety of music. So when it came time to compose and start to write, all that stuff kind of comes out. It's part of the fabric of who you are, so it's going to come out one way or another when you sit down to start to write.
When you so you were you took a break, so to speak, like a long break, and to like kind of be close with your kids, to be a school teacher. So you get back into music, all right? And what do you start doing now? Are you at this point? Have you started getting into Christian music or not?
When I first came back, it wasn't a concerted effort to do that. I was actually, truth be told, I was sitting in a teacher's lounge in Southwest Philadelphia at a Roman Catholic school. And I was not a baptized Roman Catholic, so when they would have Mass, I really wasn't invited.
Okay.
So it was like a free time for me. So what I did was I was in this lounge this day, and I wrote a song. I just wrote a song that day, and I had this little, I just had this little moment where it just was, man, I ought to be doing this. And it was that simple. It really was that simple. And so I started, I had a trio I was working with at the time, and, they were believers like myself, and I started to write more in that vein. And little did I know, a church in the Huntington Valley or Montgomery County, right out of Philadelphia, it was an assistant pastor that had an album of mine, just loved the writing, loved the heart behind it, and he asked me to come in and become a worship leader at their church at a time when that title really didn't have a description yet. There was no real job.
Put us in place and time. You're like, what era is this? Is this 70s, 80s? What is it?
This is 2000.
Oh, this is the 2000s. Okay.
Yeah, this is 2000 now, and it's just kind of coming about. There's this massive change in music in churches, and churches are all dying, and they're trying to figure out how to get the younger, the new families and to come out. And I had free reign. This guy gave me free reign to create a service that would, reach, young families. And it was a really cool experience. A lot of the things I did in my life were on the backside, kind of coming down the mountain at the end. The first real band I played in was a guy named Billy Harner, who had a couple hit singles way back when. By the time I played with them, half the time I couldn't understand a word he was saying. He was shy.
Now, when you were playing with him, were you like kind of a side man? Were you playing guitar primarily? And is that what you were doing? Is like a sort of a
it was my first road gig. It was my first road gig. I was just kind of a guitar. I mean, out of beyond the local high school friend bands.
Yeah.
This was a paid road gig, and I got a call one night, and the band was going up to Boston, someplace to play in Massachusetts, right around Boston, and he had just fired a reed player, and I got this call, would you come up and play guitar in the band? I said, well, you work out the details, you work out the finances. I said, yeah, and when I got there, they said, well, the new guy in the band always had a ride with Billy and room with Billy.
Uh-oh.
Little did I know what a horror show that was. No, and it sounds tough. I don't want to paint Billy as a bad guy. Billy was outstanding, friendly, and warm-hearted guy who was just on the other side and really had he would admit himself, I'm sure, at this point, he had a bad battle with some drugs. But this was a young kid coming in, so I learned a lot about what I didn't want to do in my life.
I gotcha.
Yeah, I didn't want to be that guy. I wanted to be somebody that was, I'll just say, a different person.
So I got you. So when did you start making records?
Oh, I'm going to say I had a little run in I think the early 90s or late 80s in Philly with a band. Just a popular local band here that did a couple things together. But I really, in 2000 was the first time that I formally kind of did my project, so to speak. Hired my guys on, did things my way, and I followed that up in 2002 with the release. And what happened was, right around the release of the 2002 is when I got the call from. Right after that, I got the call from this church, and took on a full-time position there as I was still teaching full-time. I don't know how I did what I did, but I was playing a lot, but I wasn't playing out. So there was a gap between 2002 and maybe 2006. And by the time 2006 came, it was time to kind of spread my wings a little bit. I was getting itchy to get out and play and travel and work with some different people. And I had been writing a lot for the church at that point. So I actually had the next 3 or 4 albums I did were really more almost worship-type albums. And I found myself about a year and a half ago, I was just writing from a different place. I really wanted to get back into secular rooms, into the marketplace, and I wanted to write these. I had all these songs built up, which ended up being the Dig Love album, and those songs were not worship songs at all by any stretch of the imagination. They're all songs with a positive theme because I think I was just looking at the state of the world at that point, and I wasn't someone who was going to write about the negativity that was in the world. I was going to try to just be the optimist, on the other side, try to find, where is the love in this world?
Yeah.
How did we stray so far away from that we focus in on the one thing we don't have in common and forget about all the stuff that we do have in common. We'd rather argue and focus and let that separate us. So it was a real natural thing. It wasn't something that I specifically wrote down and said, I'm going to do this next. I feel like it wasn't. It was just very natural, just a kind of a seasonal change and who I was and how I was writing.
So this was 2014. Now, you've got a new album coming out called The Consequence, right?
Right.
And is this track that we're going to listen to, You Make Me Feel, is that on The Consequence?
No, that's a single that's out right now from Dig Love.
Oh, okay.
The Consequence was just pushed back. I initially had that set. That was set for release late this summer, and in the process of, I still perform in so many different types of venues. I found myself. I had 3 albums that had sold out. I had no hard copies left, and they were worship CDs. And what happened, long story short, rather than replacing all 3, and I had, because they're worship songs, I can't use the terminology hits.
Yeah.
My greatest hits, But I chose the songs that were the most engaging, the ones that people asked for the most, the ones they enjoyed hearing and participating in. and kind of made a collection of those, and I'm releasing that probably in September. And then what I'll do is I just pushed the Consequence back to November.
Okay, we're going to come back and talk about some more about the upcoming record and this, but let's go ahead. Let's give the kids at home a taste. This is from your 2014 release, Dig Love. You Make Me Feel on the Loudini Rock and Roll Circus.
As I sometimes feel, you make me feel like a mountain. Shy as I sometimes feel, you make me feel like an ocean. You make me feel, you make me feel, you make me feel again. You make me feel, you make me feel, you make me feel again. Weak as I sometimes feel, you make me feel like an old tree. Taut as I sometimes feel, you make me feel like a valley. You make me feel, you make me feel, you make me feel again. You make me feel, you make me feel, you make me feel again. Blue as I sometimes feel, you make me feel like a rainbow. Timid as I sometimes feel, you make me feel like a wildflower. Dark as I sometimes feel, you make me feel like a sunrise. Gruff as I sometimes feel, you make me feel like a sunset. You make me feel, you make me feel, you make me feel again. You make me feel, you make me feel, you make me feel again. Lift the world off my back. You are the eye of my deal. You bring me life when I'm numb. You make me feel.
Okay, Eddie, tell us a little bit about this song.
Well, I think each one of us at some point in our lives find ourselves in a bad place. It might be we may just feel very small. We may feel insignificant, quiet, shy, weak, be in a dark place. And when I wrote this song, I had quite a few. Well, I don't want to say quite a few, but I probably had 3 or 4 close friends and/or family that were going through this moment, and I started to reflect on the things in my life, either the places, person, place, or thing that was always there to lift me up. When there was a point when I was a younger man coming home, and it could be I could be stuck in traffic for 4 or 5 hours when I was teaching, and I'd come home. All I wanted to do was sit on the floor and build Legos with my youngest child. That was the kind of thing that would just kind of breathe life into me again. So the song really was a celebration of that person, place, or thing that makes you feel again, puts air back in your sails, just kind of gives some life when you're numbed by the world. Because this world does everything it can to pull us in the wrong direction most of the time. And there's just a lot of unhappy people, unsettled people. So I like to live in a place that I know how to get myself out of those places when I'm there. You know,
you're telling me that Dig Love has this sort of like overall theme of like, let's get back to love. You know, how did we get this so mixed up and everything? What's the overall theme? Because the title, The Consequence, sounds pretty heavy, man. what's this record going to be about, man? I don't, you're not going black metal on me or anything, are you?
Actually, I'm going the opposite. You know, I find myself going more storytelling, folkish type of stuff, which I've never really done. I've never really been in that box, and I never set out to do it. But I think what happened was, Dig Love was just very positive, very up-tempo. And I found, again, seasons change and you find yourself in a different place. And I found myself writing about places that were a little bit darker, but once again, how the power of love could get you through it. And for instance, I wrote a song called Storm in a Teacup. And I'm playing it in my studio. I'm kind of working on it. And my wife comes down and says, "That's not about us, is it?" I said, no. I said, but, I said, sit down and listen to these lyrics and hear what I'm thinking about here. It's just, we've had down times in our marriage. I said, maybe not as dark as this particular lyric in the song is, but I said, it's the power of love that gets us through those dark times. So I said, I didn't, it was time to say, okay, there's a consequence to our actions. We can kind of sway the consequence a little bit by our actions when we get involved in things in our life, conversations, problems, whatever it is. We can kind of sway how it's going to come out by our actions, by the way how we act and how we react. And if we come in with a more loving, compassionate heart, chances are we can maybe sway it to a better ending point. And that was really the thought process behind writing it. Once I had that in mind, I found out that I had an enormous amount of material that kind of fit right in that pocket. So when I did Dig Love, I'd go out and I'd be on a bill with, maybe some guy would be up singing some blues and someone else, and I'd go up there and I'm like that the happy troubadour. Come on, rise up. You got to rise up about this. Seize the moment. Embrace the hour. I'm saying, you make me feel so good again. And so I thought, man, I can't just I got to put my pom-poms down and get dirty a little bit.
Well, I think that there is that, and it's sort of how you approach it, but I think also that is a sort of breath of fresh air too for a lot of people. You know what I mean? Like I nothing you do, in my opinion, is like sappy. I don't hear that. Like, you know what I mean? Like so it's not like it's just kind of like a breath of fresh air. It's kind of like an other side of things done in a very musical, tasteful kind of way. Now we're talking about. You mentioned going out and playing shows. We talked a little bit before we started the call. Tell us a little bit about your live show.
It's about 3 or 4, maybe 3 out of 4 of the live shows I'm doing right now are solo events without my band. And I had not, until Dig Love, I hadn't done a lot of that. I always had a backing band with me. And when I started doing Dig Love, there were just a lot of opportunities to do some different things, to travel more. I couldn't afford to bring the band sometimes. Sometimes the venues were too small. There's always all these other, decisions that you go through. And I found myself, as I worked as a soloist, becoming much more a conversationalist with the audience. There's a tendency to play more and talk less when you have a full band up there. And that's been very beneficial, especially with the type of material I was doing. And I joke about it being up and up, but the topics themselves and the songs are very serious.
Yeah.
Some people do have issues just rising up above all the problems that they have in their life, and some people are so insecure that they just can't embrace the opportunities that come their way. And there's a song on there, There's a Lot of Me and You, which just looks at the fact that this guy's singing I'm different, and you got to deal with it because I'm just going to roll with it. It's who I am, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But there's still, you know, we still have so much in common. So it lended itself to that. Obviously, most musicians, if you got a good band, you love playing with them, and I love my guys.
Yeah.
My guys have been unbelievably
well,
supportive.
Go give them a shout out. Who's in the band?
My bass player is Andrew Barber, and Andrew's been with me for a good 6 to 8 years. He's a talented bassist and guitarist. Also does a little worship leading on his own. My guitarist right now, my second guitarist working with me is a man named Mike Lazinski, Luther studio producer, great guy up in the Jersey area here, New Jersey area. Got a small studio up there. Michael and I we're wired very close together. There's a very special brotherhood between us when it comes to playing, and that's always important when you've got a second guitarist in the band, you know.
Yeah.
My drummer's been with me probably the longest. He's been with me over 20 years. He's been back even the days when I was a full timer. He was with me back there. His name is Michael Fioca, and I also have a secondary drummer, Kevin Smith, who fills in when Michael can't be there. So the band is just a good brotherhood of guys that we've been through the wars together. You know, we know what it's like to struggle, and we know what it's like to kind of celebrate the moment, you know, when everything seems to be lined up. But they always I allow my band a lot of freedom to express themselves. So
of course,
I'm not the kind of person that really enjoys playing the song the same twice.
Okay.
They're for me, the songs are just like our kids when they grow up. They're constantly changing and morphing into something else. And for me, that's how the songs are every time we play them. And it takes a talented musician to be able to work as a backup player in that environment. But it also takes some time together to grow, some time to not only play on the stage together, but kind of play off the stage together, kind of hang out together and socialize and just get to know each other. So they're really awesome with that. I was telling someone the other night, I said, a lot of times right now, since I'm not getting a chance to play with them as often as I'd like, I'll come in with something new, just something they haven't heard yet, and it always kind of freaks them out. You know, they get an email with a set list, and there might be a little guide chart with it, and we'll play it in sound check. You know, we'll play it in sound check, and if it flies, man, we'll do it that night. And it's always got a ton of energy. It's brand new. Everybody's kind of feeling the buzz with it, and if it doesn't fly, you know, we'll replace it with something else. But we always do it. You know, I always put it in there, man. So, and there's always
when you play with guys consistently for a long period of time, like you have, you know, that's a lot easier to do than working like when if you're playing with like a pickup band or, you know. So when the guys know you, they kind of, we know Eddie's going to go here. He kind of tends to do this. They understand your dynamics and stuff like that. So that makes that kind of thing really fun. So there's a great benefit to spending a quality time with your people and as you said, doing it for a period of time. Yeah. So tell the kids at home how they can keep up with everything Eddy Mann, everything you've got going on. You've got the greatest hits coming out of your worship music. You've got the new record coming out this fall. People don't want to miss anything. So tell us how we can stay abreast of what you have.
Number one is always the website, eddymann.com. It's EDDYMANN. It can be found on Facebook at eddymann.musician. And the Twitter handle is Eddy_man.
Well, there you have it, guys. That is how you keep up with Eddy Mann. Eddie is just a fantastic singer-songwriter, and I would highly recommend also that you guys check him out on YouTube. There's some dynamite live stuff there with his band, and just a great bunch of players, a lot of communication on the stage. You can kind of see that these guys are really vibing together. So I would highly recommend that you find him on YouTube as well. That is Eddy Mann, EDDYMANN.com. Eddie, thanks so much for being with us today. If you got a second, I'd like to do a bonus question after we wrap up the podcast. You got a minute?
Absolutely, Lou. I'm not going anywhere.
All right, buddy. All right. Hey, guys, you've been listening to my talk here with the very talented and just absolutely a beautiful songwriter, Eddy Mann. Again, his website is eddymann.com. That is MANN.com. You've been listening to the Loudini Rock and Roll Circus. That is loudinirockandrollcircus.com. If you love artists like Eddy Mann, and I know you do, and you've been grooving on this, I recently talked to Ed Roman, Vaccine, The Manimals, Typhoid Rosie, all these bands that are just making this amazing music that corporate radio just doesn't want anything to do with. If you really believe in this music, I highly recommend you go to supportindierock.com and get involved with the Loudini Rock and Roll Circus. We've got a lot of great programs that we are excited about to launch to get the word out about this amazing music. That is supportindierock.com. One more shout-out to my sponsor, Positively Pittsburgh Live Magazine. That is pplmag.com. Go check them out. And like I said, you are listening to the Loudini Rock and Roll Circus. My name is Lou Lombardi, and that website is loudinirockandrollcircus.com. Guys, thanks so much for listening. Eddy Mann, that is eddymann.com, and we will catch you guys on the next podcast.